We have a returning friend. Paul Jetter from Safely Back Home has come and joined us. Paul and Safely Back Home is our, God, I cannot believe I'm already saying this, our September. And you know what's funny, Paul, is that everybody always says that. Geez, it's already July. It's already, but I swear, after the age of 21, it became a 6 month year. Okay.
Oh,
I don't know
yeah,
what
no, I know
happened.
what you mean. I know
You
what you
know,
mean.
it took forever to get to 21. And now, I'm, well, 3 times 21 almost.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like, all of a sudden now time just like flies
Well,
by.
I'll tell you what, Zach, the 6 month thing I can relate to, but for me here in Northwest Jersey, it's like spring, summer, fall is 1 month. And the winter just is 5 months, brother. I'm telling you, it
Yeah.
just goes on. But summer always, I kind of love summer, although spring's become my favorite now because everything's in front of us, and time, you're getting more sunlight, you're getting more warmth, and you're
Yeah.
planting gardens and stuff. But yeah, summer hit really quickly here in Jersey. We had we had some very hot days, and then right but before Labor Day, it went from the 90s down to the 70s, and it's staying that way. No complaints, but
I
kind of miss
just
the
looked
summer.
down and it's 95 degrees
Oh,
here
where
right
you
now.
are.
Yeah. It's 95 degrees right now.
It-
And let me get this out of the way though,
yeah,
because
yeah,
in Colorado, when it's 40 degrees,
yeah.
I wear shorts.
Oh, yeah,
40
yeah,
degrees, shorts and short sleeves, it's beautiful.
yeah. No, I hear you.
40 degrees here is beautiful. 90 degrees
Uh,
is freaking hot. And
yes.
especially for a fatter guy like
Cut it
myself,
out. Cut it out. Cut it out.
then it's an uncomfortable thing. And
Well,
I mean, there was a reason why they called me polar bear when I rode,
oh,
and that's
okay.
because I would rather ride when it was 40 degrees. I
Yeah.
was out there all the time on my bike. If it was above 20 degrees, I was on my bike. I
Well,
was out there, I
two
was enjoying it.
two things, Zach. Number one, I know you lived in Jersey for about 4 minutes, but
Yep.
you're welcome to come back to Jersey. Number one, and number two, when I see everybody on the bikes, because a lot of people ride here in Sussex County, it's beautiful. It's rolling hills, it's farmland. But even in the summer, I see they're wearing these heavy coats and because to protect if they fall. And so I guess you know, riding a motorcycle, you just have to enjoy the experience because you can't just ride it with a t-shirt and shorts, and
No, no.
it's a little too dangerous. But I hear you, and again, that invitation stands. You're welcome to come back to Jersey and root for the Devils anytime you want, my friend.
You know what? You might want to curb that enthusiasm, because if I
Okay,
get there, I will be insane
of
when
course.
I get there. So, we'll have to go to the Rock if I show up. There's no doubt about that.
The
Uh,
Rock.
yeah, yeah.
What?
They're in Newark.
Oh, that's where they play. Okay,
Yep, yep, yep. They're in Newark.
gotcha.
So, but Paul,
Yes,
let's talk about Safely Back Home.
yes,
You started Safely Back Home because you had concerns about your father.
correct.
Can you please go on ahead and just take a couple minutes and
Sure.
tell us the story?
Be happy to. And thanks for the opportunity. And thanks for what you do too, Zach. It's really appreciated. Yeah, so my dad was an electrical engineer. He had his own kind of small business, but business for many years. And he was 84. He still had his business, has his little shop, and made controls for water pumps and stuff like that. And at any rate, he, at one day driving back from his shop, he got disoriented and couldn't remember how to get home. And he knew right away that something was not right. He recognized it. And within a few days, he stopped working, even though he had, as long as I've known him, worked, he was a workaholic, always working. And I actually even saw his notebook at a later time from work, and he was writing things kind of indicating what was going on. And he was a draftsman, and I could see his handwriting was starting to get worse. But at any rate, So he decided not to go into work, and my sister became his caregiver. And he went through testing, and we weren't sure if it was Alzheimer's or dementia. But I decided to do my homework and went to the Alzheimer's Association in Jersey. They gave me a lot of information. And part of it said he was encouraged to stay physically active. And then also they told me about this wandering thing, which I knew nothing about. That they said 6 out of 10 people with dementia or Alzheimer's wander. And so, fast forward a bit, my brother became his caregiver, was a wonderful caregiver. I live about an hour and a half from where my dad lived in East Brunswick. And my brother did everything they suggested. He kept him physically active and took him for walks, took him to a park nearby, took him to stores. And as I read about the wandering, when I learned about wandering, it did cross my mind, even though my brother was so wonderful in taking care of my dad, that, should my brother take his eyes off him, which is going to happen at some point, what would happen with my dad, especially once his condition deteriorated to the point where he could not say what his name was or where he lived. And he wouldn't have any identification with him. So the first thing I did was look into tracking devices for my dad. And this is quite a while ago, but I was very, very impressed with Project Lifesaver International. They were the first ones to have tracking devices that you wear on your wrist or your ankle, and it's a radio signal that's sent out 24 hours a day, and the sheriff's departments can use receivers to pick up that signal. And as of now, they've rescued, I think, 4,500 people since 1999. So I was very impressed with that, and I kind of wanted that for my dad, but he was resistant. We knew he just wouldn't wear it. And so I did think about, okay, what happens if whether my dad leaves the house or, my brother's just not aware he's gone. And what would happen is people in the neighborhood wouldn't really know him because he was always at his shop. And so if it was you, Zach, and you saw him and you could see that he was, wandering, disoriented, he wouldn't have any ID, couldn't say who he was. So you'd call the police department or 911. They would come, they'd take him to the station, and they would have no way of knowing how to contact my brother. So my dad would sit there. I mean, eventually, I guess they'd figure it out. My brother would figure it out. So my thought on that was, okay, why don't I do something simple, which is simply use an iron-on transfer to put my brother's cell phone number on my dad's clothing. So, if he did wander, at least somebody could contact my brother. So my brother my brother went to a caregiver support group, Piscataway, and he brought a sample of what I was doing to them. He had asked me about it. And the facilitator there, the director, as well as the people who were there, really liked the idea a lot. Fast forward, my dad passed not that much longer after that, and he never, we were fortunate. He never wandered. He stayed with my brother for a year and a half, but then he had a bad fall, and so he stayed at not a nursing home, but a home that was wonderful. So his last year and a half, he did so well. We were so grateful, especially my brother. So that was kind of the end of it. And years passed, not a lot of years, and I was asked about what I'd started way back then. And would I consider, they thought, some people thought it was a good idea, would I consider moving forward with it? So I decided to do so. And I did more research about wandering, and I learned that it was not just older folks with Alzheimer's or dementia, it was also people with autism, which I didn't know about, and autism, Down syndrome, most any kind of cognitive challenge that could involve wandering. And so I met and stop me if I'm talking too long about this, but I I wound up first, how was sequel to first, I started going to support groups of parents of children with autism through Autism New Jersey. I just reached out to Autism New Jersey. They told me about these support groups and suggested I ask to speak to them. And I did. And it was a real privilege and a learning experience for me. Going to these meetings, it was quite emotional also, seeing what the parents are going through. Um, some of the parents were just learning for the first time that their young child, a couple of years old, had autism. And the parents there were so supportive of each other, and the facilitators were fantastic. So I learned a lot about wandering. And what I'd done at the time was to create or just use the iron-ons, these iron-ons that could go on that would have the parents' phone number. If that person appeared lost, just like it would have been my brother's, call that number. And I went back to the first meeting, never forget it, first meeting with the parents of children with autism support group. And usually it was towards the end of the meeting that I would, speak. And it was my first meeting. And so I showed the parents what I had, and I gave them a sample of the shirt. And the husband and wife turned to me and said, "We love your idea, Paul, but our son is going to be scratching at this all day," because it had a plasticky feel, which transfers had. So I realized I had to change that. So I checked on all the different printing technologies, and there was a technology with a very, very soft vinyl that felt just as soft as the garment, but each garment though had to be printed individually with that. Um, and so I started doing that, and then I got involved with an autism organization, which is a wonderful organization, putting the pieces together in Lyndhurst, New Jersey. Met the woman who was running it. She invited me to come over there. And what they did there was once a week, all the parents would come in with their kids, and kids ranging in age from very young to, about 21. And for 1 month, they'd have dancing, which was really good. I mean, the dance instructor was great. They're playing current music, and all the kids at different ages, were able to dance, and the parents were able to basically relax.
Mhm.
Um, and then another time they had cooking, another time they had music. With the gentleman, it's not a group out west, but it's a group called the Nerds. He was a drummer. He brought in his drum set, his one son who played the bass. He had another son who had pretty severe autism. And they played music, but the kids would play music. It was just beautiful. At any rate, what I would do is the families would each bring in 3 garments that their child wears. And I would make up those garments. I'd imprint the garments with the parent's cell phone number. And it basically said, "If I appear lost, please call." And it would be the phone number of the parents. Fast forward, I made many garments for them that way, probably around 100 garments in total. And fast forward, I knew in the back of my mind that although this was helpful to the parents, it kind of exposed them with that phone number to someone if someone had bad intentions, like a predator. And at right around the same time, through that organization, through a basketball game with the North Arlington Police Department and putting the pieces together, I met someone, the referee from the North Arlington Police Department. I had a table set up at the game, and he saw what I was doing, and he liked the idea, and he asked me if I'd like to meet with the chief, North Arlington. And I said, yes, that's exactly what I've been trying to do, wanting to do. So I met with them. The chief loved the idea for going through the police department instead of the parents' phone number. And like just a few weeks later, I was invited to speak to the Chiefs Association in Bergen County, New Jersey, which has about 70 towns. So there they are, 70 police chiefs, and I'm really just putting the program together, explain what I'm doing, and many of them wanted the program. and I wasn't fully prepared. I just wasn't. But we still had 6 police departments who signed on to the program. And what we do is I would collect the garments, have them imprinted. It was quite expensive. It was $15 to $20 for each garment to be imprinted. But the people would bring in clothing that their kids or the seniors liked to wear, so they're already comfortable wearing it. And it was such a soft imprint, they wasn't that noticeable. So we did that, and it was in 2016 and 17, and um, I just wasn't able to sustain it from my own funds, from the work that I do. Um, it was too expensive. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And so it kind of went on the back burner. And then in 2020, I pursued the application to become a 501c3. And that did happen. And of course, and it happened right at the start of COVID. I mean, it was in April of 2020. And so nothing happened then. And then fast forward again to just last year, I started drinking these drinks from Starbucks to give me a little extra oomph, have some extra caffeine in them. And the staff at the Starbucks where I was getting these drinks pretty often submitted my name safely back home to the Starbucks Foundation. And lo and behold, they gave me a grant last year, $3,000. And the money was helpful, but just the acknowledgement of what I was doing, having merit, meant a lot to me. And within 2 months, we started the program as a 501c3 in a town called Hopatcon, New Jersey. Hopatcon, New Jersey. But instead of imprinting the garments one at a time with the way I described, I had done research, and there's a new technology called direct to film, where you can actually print a decal that can be ironed on to any fabric, and then it's washproof and it's totally soft. Okay, so I reverted to we introduced the program. These Hopatcon Town Council said they would cover the cost for the program, and I made a presentation to the school. It was the middle school, and we had 6 families enroll in the program right away. And then I was invited to make a presentation to an organization called SMILE, the Smile Home. It's the abbreviations for other words. And their board of directors decided they wanted for their residents, and those residents were older. They were like in their 20s, 30s. They're all gentlemen with Down syndrome. But the idea was the same thing. They liked the idea of having something that can give some added safety if their residents wandered. And so we started the program, and I had the families bring in, first of all, they enrolled in the program, and I could now kind of give you an idea of it, but just quickly, the parents and then folks from the Smile Home, they brought in 20 garments of each individual, garments that the people enjoyed wearing. And it was for all seasons, spring, summer, fall, winter. And at that time, I would heat press them on. And this is what the iron-on looks like. Okay. And what it says, you can see safely back home, Hopatcon. We actually had Hopatcon, New Jersey. It's the phone number for the Hopatcon Police Department and the safely back home ID number. Now, the way the program works is that let's use you and me, for example, Zach. Let's say I'm your dad and I have Alzheimer's, or I'm your son and I have autism. Okay. And in each case, I tend to wander. And for the sake of the program right now, since it's in Hopatcon, New Jersey, we live in Hopatcon. What you would do is you would fill out an enrollment form, either online or in person at the police department or other locations in town. And the enrollment form just has 4 basic parts to it. The first part is a photograph of me, a recent photo. Then your information, you're my caregiver. So how to reach you and any other people who might be able to help in the event that I do wander. And then some medical information about me, in particular if I have any acute conditions or medications that I need to take. And then you would say, well, look, when you approach my dad or my son, um, speak to them, ask them about their dog, Charlie, okay? Because I'm attached to Charlie, whether I'm your dad or I'm your son. And that way I would immediately, if you're a police officer, connect with you and feel at ease and calm with you. And that enrollment form then goes into the Hopakon Police Department, into their database. And they assign a Safely Back Home ID number. They assign the number. So that would be, in this case, 1001. Okay. And then what happens is you bring in the clothing. I'd heat press them onto the garments. But also now, just to be clear about this, people can now iron these on themselves. They don't need to be heat pressed. And it's a very simple process. It's 20 seconds with the iron and then another 10 seconds with a parchment sheet. And it's permanent. And we've done all the wash tests 20 times, wash, dry, they hold up. So people can do this. So now I'll just give you a walkthrough of what would happen and how the program works. And keep in mind, I can be an older gentleman, I could be a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Here in Jersey, if any of your viewers are familiar with Jersey, a lot of people go to the Jersey Shore in the summer. I do. Brought my son there many years. And one of the places people go is Point Pleasant. There's a lot of boardwalks. So the example I'll use is that we're in Point Pleasant. And somehow I'm on the boardwalk, and whether I broke away from you or whether I just found my way to the boardwalk, there I am. And I'm wandering. And people can see just by my body language that I'm disoriented, whatever. And most people, not because it's good, bad, or otherwise, are kind of assuming that somebody's going to take care of me. You know, my family, the boardwalk police, whatever. I figured maybe 9 out of 10 people. It's just the way it is. But one person wants to help me. So they approach me and they see I'm wearing, here's a shirt I'll show. This is a kid's shirt. Let's see how well I can do this. So here's a kid's shirt. Okay. And here's the iron on.
Up just a little bit more.
Yeah, hold on. So
there you go.
Here's the iron on that's on the shirt. Okay, this is just a regular shirt. And can you see the number on there too?
It's a little small, but yeah,
okay.
we can see them. Yeah.
So the idea is, okay, I'm wearing this shirt, and again, I'm either a senior or a kid, and this person approaches me and wants to help me. They see I'm wearing this, and by the way, it could be a hat, it could be pants, it could be a backpack, it could be anything. But they see this and they want to help me, so they call that number, and that number is the Hopakon Police Department 24-hour number. They get that number. They get the Hopakon dispatcher and say, look, this old guy, this kid seems to be lost. They can tell them that they're in Point Pleasant, but also the dispatcher can see the call came in from Point Pleasant, New Jersey. And then we'll call him the Good Samaritan, person who wants to help, gives the ID number as well. And so the dispatcher says, thank you so much. Please stay with that person. And immediately a dispatcher from Hopakon calls the Point Pleasant Police Department and explains the situation, and then forwards electronically my file to the Point Pleasant Police Department. So they have the picture of me. They know about you, Zach. They know my medical, acute conditions, and they know what to say to me. But what happens is the Point Pleasant Police Department forward my file to the patrol car that's closest to the boardwalk. And that officer is able to see a picture of me, knows about you, knows what to say to me, and makes the rescue. That's how it works. It's very simple. Very simple.
and Paul, I really want to bring this up, okay? Because it didn't occur to me how important it was that it went to a localized phone number instead of being
Right.
their own phone number, because you know what, if in which I would not be as fearful as others, and that's my personality. But there's somebody else that if they see somebody who's acting a little irrational or acting out, they just don't understand it, which is perfectly fine to want to keep their distance. But if they see that patch on there, they can already have that number in on their phone, that they can say, hey, we've got this, we got this person wearing a Safely Back Home patch.
Right.
Okay. I'm looking from a distance. I'm keeping my eye on this person, trying to keep as
Very
safe
good point.
as I
Good
can,
point. Yeah.
trying to keep them as safe as I can. Here's their patch. Can you please get somebody here to help me?
Yeah.
I don't feel I'm the right person to approach them. Here's one other reason why, folks. You don't know if this person's going to react well to you. So if you come bum rushing at somebody and you're just like going, here, let me look at your arm, you could potentially cause a lot of problems.
Right.
So, I
Right.
mean, this patch is so subtle. There's such
Yeah.
a subtlety to it, but it's so important. It really is. And look, we've all, I think one of the things that you said that is really important to remember is that, um, they're going to lose track of people. Okay. I was in a store yesterday and I turned around, my wife was gone. Okay. Not that she went wandering. She
Mhm.
was trying to get rid of me, but I no, but and it just split seconds.
Yeah, of
So
course.
and
Yeah.
one of the saddest stories that I have to tell over and over again, Paul, is my really really great friend John and Teresa. Their little boy, Teresa was sick, and their little boy at 3 years old got out of their home and he ended up drowning in the pond.
Oh,
Okay, moments
right.
can mean a lifetime.
No,
And that's why this is so important.
yeah,
We
yeah,
Go on
exactly.
ahead.
No, I was going to say, my son is 32 now. He doesn't have autism. When he was 3, we were at Macy's or one of those stores, Penny's, my wife and I, and we took our eyes off and we're looking at things, and he was gone.
Mhm.
And the feeling that sets in is, it's a primal feeling, is that you have to do whatever you can to find your child. And I got down on my knees. I couldn't care. I was crawling on the floor. I couldn't care less what I looked like. And I found him within, I guess, 30 seconds, but it seemed like a lot more. And he was hiding in a like a rack of clothing, and inside of it, he thought it was really funny. And but the terror that you feel about possibly, so when it's someone who's much more vulnerable, who has who has autism or Alzheimer's, it's even, I understand that. I can't understand it from their standpoint. I understand the feeling of losing missing a loved one, even for a matter of seconds. So it is terrifying. What you just told me about your friend's son is heartbreaking. And what I learned about autism is that the young people with autism, almost any age, gravitate towards water. There's something about water that they're drawn to. And when somebody does wander due to autism, when they sadly, uh, oftentimes they drown. And
Yeah, it's a sensory, it's a sound. It's a
I don't
sound.
know what it is, but
Yeah.
basically, police departments have told me there's a 48-hour window, basically, whether it's a senior or a kid. You need to find that person within 48 hours, because one of the similarities between people with Alzheimer's and people with autism is that they have no sense of danger. And that includes dealing with the elements, whether it's the heat of summer or the cold of winter, traffic. And so if you don't find that person within 48 hours, then it's likely that they're going to be, badly injured or worse. So there's that 48-hour period. So yeah, our program, I don't overstate what the program can do. The best approach for anyone who has someone who wanders is tracking devices. If they are able to have a tracking device and work with, whether it's Project Lifesaver or any other organization where there's a tracking device, that's the best. However, what we have is something that complements the tracking device, or if someone doesn't have a tracking device, it at least it's a tool. It's a tool so that there's some way, if their family member wanders, that the public can help. Number one, and number two, if their family member is found, they could be quickly identified and reunited. And that's what the program is all about. I want it to be free to anyone who wants to be enrolled in the program. I'm just starting on the fundraising end of it. Literally, I mean, I have not done any fundraising. The grants from Starbucks were very welcome, and they gave another grant just a few weeks ago. Second grant. They're young kids at Starbucks, but they put the name in, and Starbucks acknowledged it. So
Well, I
yeah,
also want I really quick I want to bring
yeah,
up something else, okay? And you're talking about the trackers, and you mentioned already that your father wouldn't have been receptive to the trackers, okay?
to wear the
Right.
bracelet. Yeah.
Yeah, and anybody who watches my channel knows I
Oh,
wear my
wow,
bracelets all the time. I love
wow.
my bracelets. Every single bracelet I wear has a meaning. Okay?
Yes.
I love
Yeah.
them.
Oh no.
I
Okay.
wear them. I
Yeah.
love them until I turn the camera off, and then I can't wear them too often because they irritate my skin. Like if
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
sweating, I
Yeah.
can't wear them because I've got very sensitive skin.
Yeah.
So I don't wear them. So if you see me at a store a lot of times, I'll want to wear them. I'll intend on wearing them, but I will have forgotten them. If I have a tracking bracelet on, it's useless because it's sitting here on my desk.
Yeah. And
So,
that's not see the challenge with the tracking devices and bracelets. Kids, people with autism are extra sensitive to anything tactile, anything
mhm,
on their skin to begin with. So it's a challenge to have them wear that. And then some of the seniors, they just don't want to do it.
yep,
But the idea is these iron-ons, the program is a tool, just as I've described, so that the parents or the caregivers feel that there's at least a little more. They may have a little more peace of mind because the public and law enforcement have a tool to be able to identify their job. But also, very importantly, that law enforcement, when they approach their family member, are able to do it in a calm manner, where they know that when that officer approaches their parent, their grandparent, their child, he's going to, or he or she is going to say something to their family member that's going to calm them down. That means everything. And by the way, the police departments really like this program for a couple of reasons. One of them is just what I said. When they do find someone, they're able to interact with them without things escalating. And also, they're able to identify them quickly and reunite them with their families. The other thing is when they come across somebody who's wandering, and again, whether it's an older person or a younger person, um, they don't know anything about that person. They don't know about the person who's wandering. And if that person becomes aggressive with the police, if the police say, sit down, whatever instructions the officer gives them, and instead of following the instructions, the individual becomes aggressive, doesn't follow instructions. The officers have no idea why that person is behaving that way.
yep.
They would, consider maybe that person's on drugs or alcohol or something else like that. And then they'd have to proceed on that basis. What I've been told by law enforcement is when they see this imprint about safely back home, it's an indicator to them that this person, it's an explanation for this person's irrational, aggressive behavior, and they
Well,
understand it then.
And Paul, look, here's a personal story. We were taking care of a young man who had a mental disability, okay? And we were told that he needs to have a phone on him at all time just in case there was an interaction with police officers. And my first thought was, how dumb is that? Because
Yeah.
if there's a situation and this young man goes to reach into his pocket
Oh my God, you're
at a
right.
nervous
You're right.
officer
You're right.
who
You're
doesn't
right.
know what's going on, what's going to happen to this
You're
young
right.
man?
You're right.
So
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why I love your program so much. Paul, I'm going to ask you to control your mouse, and
Oh,
I'm
right.
going to read a story that you got from a wonderful, wonderful, very happy mom, Miss Ashley Labor. So you can show the pictures, and I'll do the reading. How does that sound?
Okay, well, let me just give you a background on this. So we had the families of in Hopakon, a total of about 11, and some of the parents from the school, they had their own experiences with their kids, all different ages. And then I asked them if they wanted to share any of their experiences with me because they just started with the program. And so Ashley's son's name is Xavier.
Yep,
I think he's 7 now,
7.
7. And he is a wanderer. And so we imprinted all of her clothing. And then she sent me this email with these photos. Now, what do I need to do again? Sorry. What?
You will, if you just control your mouse and you show the two pictures, I will read the story.
All right.
Okay.
So here
So,
are the pictures to
yeah,
get
you'll
these.
just have to scroll down. All we see right now is the story itself.
Yeah, I'm not
But,
able to scroll down. I don't know why.
uh,
Maybe I should open this up.
yeah, try to do. Okay. Yeah, we saw a little bit of movement there.
No,
See if
still can't get it though. I really want the pictures to be able to be seen though.
you know what? While you're playing with that, I'm going to just read this story though.
Okay, okay.
And this again is from Ashley Labar. And it says, I can't say enough about how wonderful this program is for our family. We have been getting my son Xavier clothes done by Safely Back Home program for over a year now. Xavier is nonverbal and autistic. He will not wear anything on his wrists. Very important right there.
Yeah,
And he does not comprehend anything close to what a typical 7-year-old does. It is my worry as he gets older and more independent minded that he will wander off. The worst part is, since he is nonverbal, he cannot tell someone he has lost, what his name is, or who his parents are. I haven't had this worry too much until this year's vacation. Xavier is starting to explore and become more curious. We went to the beach and, of course, the arcades. Blinking lights, folks.
hmm,
I turned my head for 1 second, and I'm not exaggerating, only 1 second. And when I turned around, Xavier was not in my view at all. Inside, I was panicked so bad, but I told myself, relax and look around for him. Luckily, he was right around one machine right to my right. The reason I told myself to relax was because I knew his shirts were imprinted with Safely Back Home program. This is honestly a great program. On top of it, it's free for our family. We do not have a lot of money. Having a disabled child is very costly, and I really appreciate this program and anyone who donates to it. It gives us parents a peace of mind when 90% of the time our minds are going like ping pong game when it comes to taking our kids out of the house. I would recommend this program to anyone who has loved one who is at flight risk. Thank you so much for all you do, Paul, and the supporters of this program, Miss Ashley Labar. Oh,
I'd really like them to be able to see the pictures because it shows her son on the beach. Beautiful pictures, by the way.
yeah.
Um, and
Unfortunately, I can't. I'm
no
not able to
worries,
control them at all.
no worries, no
I
worries.
wish I could get them to come up on my end,
Yeah, it's
but
okay. It's okay. But it really, that really made an impact on me, reading what she wrote, but also the photographs with him playing on the beach in different shirts, wearing his safely back home, with the imprinted decal, the ID decal, and even especially at a beach where a kid can wander off pretty quickly. Um, yeah, she kind of summed it up in what she wrote, and of course, I'm so glad that she was able to find Xavier right away. Um, so that's yeah, she had sent that a little while ago, and that pretty much says what it is. Is that she her kid took off. She knew her son had this imprint on, and she found him right away. But the idea that if she had not found him, of course she would still be panicking. But she'd know that if someone else in the arcade or the boardwalk found him, they'd be able to go through the sequence that I just described to you. And by
yeah,
the way, it's the wandering person can be 100 feet away, 10 feet away, or they can be hundreds of miles away, thousands of miles away. It's the same thing. If it was me and I'm wandering in California and somebody sees me there for whatever reason, it's the same sequence. They call, they get the Hopakon Police Department in this case. The Hopakon Police Department coordinate the rescue with the police department in California. And by the way, something interesting. With the seniors, we have something here in Jersey. I don't know if you have it out your way called the Silver Alert. And what happens on the Silver Alert is it's especially for people with Alzheimer's who climb into their car and take off. Okay. And what happens is above the parkway and turnpike, they have the signs mentioning a silver alert and the driver's license, the license plate of the car and the make of the car, because these are people who can still drive or are still able to drive, and they'll take off, but they won't know where they're going. So it's very interesting. When I was starting this, I made a presentation to Police Officers Association, and the chief of the association called me the next day. The president of the association said, "Paul, what side do you imprint the garments on?" And this was back in 2016, 17. And I said, "Well, the industry, they always imprint it on the right side." And he said, "Well, would you consider imprinting it on the left side?" And I said, "Sure." And what was the reasoning behind it? And he said, "Well, this is it, is when they have the silver alerts, the notice goes out to all the toll booth operators, especially the toll booth operators and others, saying, watch for this car, watch for this person, watch for this, vehicle." But when they go to the toll booth, of course, their left arm is out like
hmm
this.
very
And
good
when
point.
they're driving, their arm is out like this. And when they're
Yep,
parked, their arm is out like this.
wonderful,
And and
wonderful
and
point.
and that came up from a police chief, and I thanked him. And we've been imprinting on the left side ever since then. So it's
I
it's a learning curve with this
Yeah,
program.
Paul, when you were saying that, I was saying just distinction alone would have made that, but I mean that makes so much more
Yeah,
sense now that you said that.
on the left
One of
side.
the ways that you can support all this program that you're hearing about right now is by utilizing the QR code. It's almost like it's a ghost now because you see two of them on your screen. You can use either one. It takes you to a jot form that is specific for safely back home. All you have to do, folks, is shop with any of our wonderful, wonderful giving partners. Mr. Z and I are working closely to change up the program and make it even easier. So, all you have to do is go on to the website here in the next couple weeks, and you're going to be able to type in website developer, and the names of anybody who's a website developer within our program is going to pop up right then and there. You can type in what city you're in. Like, oh, I don't know, maybe a painter in New Jersey. How's that for pressure sales, pal?
Well, okay. I mean,
But we'll discuss all this later. But anyway, this is going to be the quickest way for you to ever find a partner that you can utilize, and you can support safe programs like Safely Back Home. But for the next coming up month of September, we are working with our beautiful friend Melissa. And we do not have the QR code today, but we will have it hopefully by the time this runs. And you can use Paul's QR code. And anytime you buy a bottle of wine, delicious One Hope wines for the next month, you will be able to give 10% of that bottle of wine back to Paul and Safely Back Home. Please remember, this is a program that was built by myself, Melissa, and Stephanie. And this is a program built to honor the hard work of people like Paul, who are doing this. This wonderful thing. Paul, one of the things that you just talked about brings me back to a story when I was talking to our friend Jennifer from last month. And she was telling us about how, and this honestly damn near brings a tear to my eye every time I hear it. But it really emphasizes the importance of people driving, that somebody had to sit there and say, hey, you cannot watch my daughter anymore because you're going to try to drive. And that was a caregiver. And the other thing in this letter that really got to me personally is she said it. It doesn't matter if you are the parent. It doesn't matter if you're the child. There is a lot of pressure on caregivers at all times. At all times. And this is just a little, there's this much room. This gives them even this much more room to be able to, because there's times, folks, as somebody who's been a caregiver, as somebody who's a caregiver right now, there's times that you don't feel like you can breathe out. It's always built up and built in. It's a hard way to live. It really is. And Paul, I can't express to you again the simplicity of this program, but the complexity of how it works, the complexity of how effective it is. It's such a beautiful, beautiful program, because seriously, it's just, you're not bouncing off satellites. You're not doing any of this stuff. You're taking favorite clothes. And you mentioned, stuff like this. Hey, I love it. I love it. Other people, they're like, ugh, get that away from me. I'm not wearing a watch. I'm not doing this. You've got a child that, and look, folks, let's be honest, kids, they love these crazy things.
Mm-hmm.
You can make them a one-of-a-kind hat. Nobody else in the world has that kind of hat. Things like this, look, your children don't have to know everything about this.
Right.
But the safety aspect of it is more than just getting them home. It's making sure that they're alive. It's making sure that they're safe. Children, seniors, anything like that. Paul, let me ask something, and maybe even suggest something. As a biker, one of the things that we really focus on a lot of times, and I'm just wondering if it's even possible for you, is there like a reflective?
Mm-hmm.
Is there?
So good question, and that's something that I started with quite a while ago. The challenge of it with the kids with autism is
Is the
that
feel?
it has a feel, but for the seniors, it's less of an issue. And we want to do that because a lot of the times when somebody's wandering, it's at night. and the people who are looking for them, have flashlights and that kind of thing. There's no question about it, and we will do that. And the technology is not yet there where it can be soft enough that it won't bother the people with autism. But yes, we're going to make that available as well, um, especially on hats and things like that. And by the way, people can't iron on something onto a hat. If they want to do a hat, they actually need to take the same iron-on decals that we produce for them, and bring it to a t-shirt shop and let them put it on. And they'll charge whatever they charge, but you'll have that hat will be permanent. And so that's a very good point, the reflective, and we will do it. We tried it before. Like I said, it was the just it lacked the softness that was needed, even the glow in the dark type of stuff. But the reflective is the main thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
And go ahead.
no, go on ahead, please.
Yeah, the other thing I was going to say, as far as the folks who wear this, for the most part, they're not really cognizant of the meaning of what it is. For the most part. It's interesting, when I spoke to the Alzheimer's Association, someone who spoke with me who really liked this idea. And keep in mind, this Safely Back Home can complement um, people wearing tracking devices. It's not one or the other. This is a simple visual. This is technological, and they're both good. But this is for people who it can complement people who are already wearing a tracking device or who don't have it. Um, but what the other thing that the person from the Alzheimer's Association told me is that even when like my dad, early on, when he was aware of what was happening to himself, she said that it's good if family members encourage that person even early on to ask them if they're okay wearing it. You know, so it's not just it's not something that's looked down upon or whatever. So what we came up with is something that we feel is sort of a sweet spot, as far as it doesn't say too much. It's not too conspicuous, but it's there enough that people can notice it. And if somebody does not, if a family member does, if a caregiver does not want their family member to wear it, they don't have, it's not for everybody. Um, so yeah, I just wanted to mention that part about the children, the seniors who are wearing it. Usually, they're not cognizant of what it means. And we had one family whose son was kind of proud to show show his shirts that had the Safely Back Home ID decal on them. So, but
Yeah,
yeah,
and it's actually kind of funny that a little bit ago we were talking about me being a New Jersey Devils fan, and I actually, Paul, in my shopping cart right now, I've got a shirt in the cart that's got 3 different patches down the arm.
yeah,
It is the style that's in right now, so
yeah,
it's not something that looks out of place. It's
right,
not something that but again, the safety aspect of this.
yeah. And the other thing that's important is that it's clothing that the family member already enjoys wearing.
Yeah.
And it's clothing, whether it's a shirt, it can go on winter coats, it can go on all this stuff. Um, so our costs have come way down from where it used to be $15 to $20 to do a single shirt. For us to do the 20 decals and then include and again, using a hand iron, just 20 decals. We call it a pad that just slides into the sleeve so that you can iron directly on and it won't affect the surface beneath it. It's come way, way down. I mean, I don't have a specific number. I can give you a general number of what it would be. The decals, to do 20 decals, would be about $40. And then we have the slide in Teflon pad, which is around $15. And then we use parchment sheets, which when you use the iron, it protects the fabric. And then we ship it. So it comes out to around $75 for a family to have the iron-ons, the parchment sheets, the insert pad, and put it on whatever clothing they want, you know. And then if they need to reorder as somebody gets older, that's all fine. You know, they're already in the database. And but the idea is now for me to present this more. I start with the police departments because they're the ones who coordinate the rescues. So my plan is to, as I did way back in 2017, present this to the chiefs associations. They have in New Jersey, every town, I'm sorry, every county has a chiefs association. They all meet once a month, and that's when I made the presentation in Bergen County. So I'd like to do that in New Jersey, have it grow, and it's not difficult for the police departments. They just have to set it. You know, if they add it on to databases they already have. And that one other thing I should bring up is that I was told that this happened already in North Arlington. Is there was a young boy who was wandering in a park, and he wasn't wearing, you know, the Safely Back Home shirt, but he was in the program. And when he was brought to the police station by the police, they were able to, I forget exactly how they matched him up. Well, two instances of this. I'm sorry, two instances of this, where because they were in the database, they were able to identify the child. It also happened in Sussex County, where there was a child who accidentally had called 911, and the police responded, and it was a child with autism. And when they made the connection as to who the child was, he was already in their database, and they were able to understand what had just transpired with the child. I hope that's not too convoluted. My point is that even if somebody is not wearing the shirt, if they're in the system, the police already know who the contacts are. By the way, something else that goes into the enrollment form is the parents say, or the caregivers say, these are the areas that my family member is most likely to wander because they've done it before. So it gives the police and the first responders as much information as possible to find that person, again, within 48 hours, again, before a child gets into a body of water and that kind of thing. So it's based on the iron-on ID decals, but it's also based on first responders, law enforcement, having all the information they need to where to look for that person and how to deal with that person. So,
Well, Paul, I want to thank you so very much. How do people get a hold of you?
well, thank you, Zach. They could reach out to me directly. I'll respond to them personally. Each person who sends me an email is probably the best. Email as do we have it up there? I guess not.
No, it'll be up here. It will be up here. It'll
Okay.
be flashing.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's pjetter@safelybackhome.org, and I'll respond to anyone and everyone. And Zach, what can I tell you? What you're doing, not just for Safely Back Home, but these other nonprofits, is I know it's a passion of yours, and you know, I want to thank you for what you're doing. It's giving us an opportunity to let other folks know what we do, help with our fundraising, and I just want to express my thanks to you.
I appreciate it. I really, really do. So, Paul, just keep up the good work. You know what? Again, this is, it's a long road.
Yeah,
We understand, but you know what, folks? We can support Paul simply by doing what we need to do every day. You shop, click and pick. Shop, click a picture, pick the mission partner you choose, make that mission partner once a month. Safely Back Home. Imagine the impact you can have just because you decided to shop with one of our partners. We will be back very shortly, and we've got a special guest.